I tried to get an update or find an update of Tommy and Jerry. Found that Jerry actually died only about 8 years after the transplant. Um, Dad died the same year, and Mom passed away in 2008. I couldn't find any updates on Tommy, so I don't know whether he's still alive or what's happening. Another case that is related to Save Your Siblings is Hart versus Brown. And Peter Hart and Eleanor Hart were the parents and natural guardians of Kathleen and Margaret Hart, who were identical 7-year-old twins. Kathy was a patient at Yale New Haven Hospital, and she had a hemolytic uremic syndrome and was waiting for a kidney transplant. It's a disorder of the kidneys. It clogs in the small blood vessels, and the physicians in this case were the defendants. So when I say Brown, it was the physicians who were the defendants and had in the past performed successful kidney transplants and were of the opinion that a successful transplantation could be performed on the minors, Kathleen as the donee and Margaret as the donor. The parents of the children had to give their permission for the operation, but physicians weren't willing to perform the operations, and the hospital refused to use their facilities unless the court declared that the parents had the right to give their consent to the operation of the minor twins. So they could do the surgery, but they wanted a court to actually say it was within the parents' right to request that and to consent to the operation. So the surgeons testified that the surgical risk was limited, that it was no more than the risk of the anesthesia. The procedure would last about 2.5 hours. There would be some minor postoperative pain, but no more than any other surgical procedure. And assuming that there would be an uneventful recovery, the children would be able to engage in all of the typical activities that young girls would participate in. The only risk would be if there was any trauma to one of the remaining kidneys in the donor. So the legal problems were discussed, and they were, concerned with balancing the rights of the parents and the rights of the children, particularly the child who was going to be the donor. So the court stated that it appeared that the parents would be able to substitute their consent for that of their minor child after they looked at, really did an objective investigation of their motivation and reasoning behind wanting the surgery done. And they accomplished this by, having a variety of people participate. There are clergymen, the doctors, the attorney who had appointed a guardian ad litem for the donor, guardian ad litem for the donee, the court. So they got everyone involved to look at what was involved in this case and what was in the best interest of the child. The court in this case actually cited the Strunk versus Strunk case, pointing out that the difference between these two cases was very subtle because the donor in this particular case was almost 8 years old. And in the Strunk case, although the donor was an adult, he had the mental capacity of a 6-year-old. The risks to the donee in the Strunk case were more than what was present in the current case. So the court concluded that the parents of the minor should have the right to consent to that kidney transplant. So they did. Actually, I had a hard time finding any updates in this case. So that's what happened. I also posted here, there's a more recent case, Charlie and Jamie Whitaker. And I posted this, and I don't want to talk about it. I want you to just read the article because it's about Charlie and Jamie, and it's from the perspective of the Save Your Sibling, and it's just a nice story of brotherly love. And then I posted one more thing I want you to take a look at. It's a bioethics project, and it looks at these Save Your Siblings in terms of the ethical issue, and particularly related to the person's autonomy. Is there autonomy in this situation? So I want you to look over those. So I apologize for the really lengthy lecturing this week, but there was a lot that I wanted to cover within these topics. And I do want you to take a look at all of these things that I've posted for you to take a look at. There's also going to be, one of these was an article that I'm going to post on Play-Doh, and I will post this non-audio PowerPoint as well so that you can use the links for all of these documents and sources. Okay, I will see you guys next week.